Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Today, taking a look at the vintage original Trilogy Collection release of C-3PO. This came out in 2004, and it was during the original Trilogy Collection line, and with that came out 3 waves of 4 figures each on this vintage style packaging, also released inside this clamshell case. And I'm not taking mine out, so we'll have to look at the card through that. At the top though, you do have the Rebel and Galactic Empire symbols, kind of help hold this thing together. And then also contained in the clamshell at the bottom is this little foil paper wrap going around the bottom. Just has Star Wars Original Trilogy Collection logo. Nice black and silver coloring to it. And then contained within that is that vintage card back of C-3PO with the Empire Strikes Back logo. Below that, his name being spelled out, as you say it, C-3PO. And then a very nice image of him standing on the Death Star. Yes, this is a technically Star Wars action figure, but it was released on the Empire Strikes Back card. Through the blister, you do see the figure. There are no included accessories for this. The back of the card, top half, shows you that original vintage card as it was released of the action figure. Also showing the date that it was available, being from 1980 to 1982. So you can certainly see how things look on this release compared to that. Along with that, a lengthy write-up talking about how they're celebrating the legendary Star Wars trilogy, and that at this time they were re-releasing figures on those original card backs. Below that, you got the 4 figures that are being shown off for the Empire Strikes Back wave of this vintage original trilogy collection. And then just underneath that are the 4 figures that were branded for each of the original trilogy movies that did get a release. Taking a look at the figure out of the packaging, I had to say this is really a fantastic looking C-3PO. This was still at a time when they were doing the vac metallization for the figures, or in particular C-3PO, to get that nice shiny gold appearance. But overall, the figure, while having that shine to it, has a fantastic weather application being done on it. It really settles into all the various nooks and crannies of the figure, helping to highlight the seams and designs of the metal framework. Going in for a closer look at the head, as I said, fantastic weathering, really settling into all the various creases. What I'm not liking is the extreme amount being done through the mouth. I don't mind so much around the eyes, but instead it makes it look like he's got some sort of brown stripe running across his face. And then the other glaring problem with this figure, and that was common on all of the releases, is that the pupils of his eyes just don't line up to the center. His left eye of the screen right as you look at it is looking way off to the side. His right one is a little bit more centered, but as you take a quick glance at the one on the card, you'll see it's even looking at a different direction. And I think that was the case for all the releases of this figure. One other downfall on this sculpt is he has a very elongated neck. The first couple that I mentioned, I can pretty much just give a pass on. It is just a toy and action figure after all, but things just look very out of place with the way that neck is just stretched up. Aside from that neck, the rest I think is just an absolute beautiful sculpt. You got some various lines of details on the side of his face for the front, and then you got a set of 3 lines there on the side for the back side of his head, even that little vent or whatever at the back center of his head. For the chest and arms, very much your standard C-3PO looking pose with the arms bent. Lots of great detailing being done. You can make out the pistons on the outside of his biceps and even on the inside of the bicep to the forearm. Now to note, as you see when I go through the articulation, things are very limited in that department. You're only going to get your shoulder movement, nothing at the elbows, nothing at the hands, so he is stuck in this pose. I don't mind. It is very iconic C-3PO looking pose. I'm not sure why that was the case, since at that time we were getting more articulation. Carrying on though, upper half of the chest, sculpting looks fantastic, weathering looks great. As it rotates around to the back, you're going to see more fantastic weathering being applied. Through the midsection, the wiring looks good also. Various colors being done in there, some white, some red, some green, with that base black color being painted in. And as we continue to move further down the figure, overall things continue to look good. And here, the same as the rest of the figure. You're not getting any added articulation in the kneecaps. He is already pre-sculpted with that bent knee position. I really don't mind. It does add to the awkwardness when you look at it from the front. But as he rotates to the side, I gotta say, it does give him a walking pose. It looks like he's in motion. So I don't mind that his legs were done in that bent position. And then at the bottom of his right leg, they even gave us the silver leg. Has a nice dull silver appearance to it. I'm trying to recall if it was a shiny silver in the movie. With the application of the gold, maybe they just couldn't do a 2-tone color and had to paint over the gold, so it could be a possible reason for why we don't have a shiny silver look here. And then for that articulation to show things off, head does do a full swivel. For the arms, you get a full swivel at the shoulders. At the waist, this just isn't even worth bragging about. It's a smidge of side to side. And the legs come straight out and just a tiny bit back. And with no accessories to speak of, that's going to conclude things here. So overall for me, certainly while there's a lack of articulation to it, especially for that time frame that this was released, and even though that neck is a little bit stretched out, the rest of it is a great sculpt. I love that it was still done with the vac metallization to it, so it's got a nice shiny look underneath all that weathering that was applied. So it definitely looks like we're getting a C-3PO right out of A New Hope as he's, wandering the desert with Luke. So that wraps this one up. Definitely let me know what your thoughts are on this figure in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.